have to list their
I
injuries.
think you're right. I think that sometimes when it comes to injury reports and Bill Belichick, you have to make sure you're paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
He really does like to embellish. He'll never, on his deathbed, that guy won't admit that he's embellished. Probably, 70% of the injuries he's reported, he's made it sound out to be something it's not.
Exactly.
And I think that's great. But
Exactly.
he's the master. But carry on with quarterbacks, man.
Yeah. So, and obviously the other one, if we're going to go expensive, because we spent a lot of time with focusing on cheaper running backs, again, Ben Roethlisberger, I expect him to throw it around. I don't believe Darrelle Revis he's a game-time decision. I don't believe he's going to play. And even if so, he's been getting burned.
He sucks, yeah. Time's come.
So, again, I have to have a lineup with him, based upon the way they played, because a lot of the other lineups I'm not so enamored with this week. So these are the two ones I could go off. A couple of the other cheaper guys I like. I do like Phillip Rivers. He's a bit cheaper. And then I also like Brian Hoyer. For my dirt cheap guy, if you really want to play at Indianapolis, even though Indianapolis is getting their secondary healthy, I still don't think that means anything. We're going to find out. But for $6,000,
I chuckled when you said Brian Hoyer. He's coming in cheap. He's coming in cheap at $6,000, but I cannot recall. I want to say it was last season, maybe week 9, 10, somewhere in there, where Brian Hoyer started to become this really sexy play because you could get him for around $6,000, $6,300 in FanDuel, and he was a really nice play that you could plug in there. And I'd left him alone for the 3 weeks while he was getting hot and simmering and heating up. And then on the third week, I said, hell, I'm playing him. And I played him, and he totally dudded out. I had a 0 out of him one day, if I recall correctly. It's just he scares the shit out of me because it's not a guaranteed play.
No, but the last 2 games, he has over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in each game. So I honestly believe he can maintain that against Indy. They're 25th against the pass. I don't expect, like I said, this as a long-term option because as he's going to go up in value and then he's going to kind of push his worth. It's not going to be worth it. But
I gotcha.
At this point, again, because when you have him, you can do a Le'Veon Bell. You can have maybe Jordan Reed as your tight end. You can do some of these moves that you can't do. FanDuel's a lot tighter this week than it was last week.
I hadn't noticed, but I'll look into that and see. I hadn't paid that much attention to see how the dollars played out. I hadn't plugged in the lineup yet. But one of the tips that we like to always throw out there is FanDuel, DraftKings, all of these daily fantasies, these options. Your best bet is Monday or Tuesday morning. Go out and sign in for the best odds game you can early in the week so you don't get shut out. I love the single entries. You tend to just win a good chunk back on your single entries pretty often because you can fit in, but the good ones are gone by Sunday morning. So go out and just reserve a lineup, and then come Sunday morning you can open it up, go to that reserve lineup on any of them, and then draft your team or draft team and go change it.
Sure, I think you can. I think it's till sometimes Sunday. I think it's a few hours before the game you can cancel them out. So even if you want to get 5, put in 5 or whatever, if you only plan on playing 2, mess with them all week long and see how they look. And then
I can't cancel lineups. I can't do it.
I do a bunch of them because I go back and forth on the way I think, and sometimes I go and put.
I'm a hopeless romantic, buddy. I'm always thinking about what if, what could have been. I'll never cancel a line.
I am too, but sometimes I don't get a feeling where, you get stars in your eyes, and every running back looks good. You just gotta.
It happens.
This leads me to a good point that I wanted to make. And some lucky bastard who won it all in FanDuel over the week, this guy won the $200,000, which was the first place in the $25 main. That's the biggest single contest they have each week in FanDuel. Guy won the $200,000 first prize. Then he wins the $100,000 second place with his lineup. Then he won like 7th place, which was $15,000. Then he wins on the next page, like I forget what the place is, like 2 more 5,000 ones. And then on the page after that, he wanted 2,001. And then I just stopped looking because I wanted to kill the guy.
Well, and that's why those multiple entries can really, really beat you up. If you're only putting in one entry in the multiple, that's a tough move.
Instead of getting all these different choices, he stayed with the foundation, and he just plugged a few different things, changed a few things, went a couple different, one defense each time, and not drastic changes to the lineups that they made them complete other lineups. He
covered all the what ifs. And it's a wise play if you can afford to do it. If you can afford to create as many options as you can, you're trying to cover the corner of the market. It's like going to the horse track and just putting $1 on 1 through 12 to win, and just hoping it's a long shot. But it's the right way to do it in this.
But he probably only did 5 or 10 lineups total because you could see there was a definite drop off. And his core players weren't changing, so he would have been there regardless because there was a number of guys who did okay or to well. And
I'm sure in this situation, too, he probably had Ryan and Jones.
Every lineup was Matt Ryan was quarterback, Julio Jones, and Michael Crabtree.
Yeah, this guy.
Sure. In every lineup.
Guy just had a lucky horseshoe up his ass, and that's all there was to it.
Jordan Reed was his tight end in every lineup.
Yeah.
So then he didn't have to get the number 1 running backs, and he didn't have either one. They were close.
So maybe that's how you do it each week. Now, you don't know either if this guy had another 50 lineups set up with all these other combinations, but maybe the guy bases himself every week on going, all right, I'm going to spend big money on 3 players. And this week it's going to be, this quarterback and this receiver and this tight end. And I'm going to do then – so say he did Matt Ryan, Julio Jones with Jordan Reed, and then he did – I know Rodgers was on a bye last week, but for the sake of whatever, let's just say Drew Brees, Brandon Cooks, and Jordan Reed. And then he went Phillip Rivers, Terrell Williams, and Jordan Reed. Or you just tried to make maybe there's some sort of rhythm to those combinations that those guys play.
Well, that's just the smartest. If you go, again, when we start to break this down, we're only doing one hypothetical lineup. But technically we're thinking about the best matchups as far as what's going to have the most offense. And then, obviously, what's the biggest guarantees for that offense? And he for sure somehow believed in his lineups and had enough of them. Again, I've had the most success when you do that because you can. Like I said, when you have a completely, I guess my advice is, if you're going to do 4 lineups or 6 lineups or 10 lineups, don't have them all be completely different. Spend the time to have a foundation.
We have Stretch is building a foundation and adding pieces around that foundation.
Right. Like this week, my foundation, my changes, I really don't have much faith in the matchups for tight end. I have expectations versus realities versus cost, and so I'm really not convinced there's one better than the other. Obviously, we'll get into that. But so for that alone, then it might be good to have 3 lineups that are similar, and then the real change is maybe tight end. And if that frees up more cap space, then maybe I'd upgrade defense or something,
Sure. Well, I want to throw a couple quarterbacks out, and you gave us your 3 at Brady, Rivers, and Hoyer. Hoyer being that special play, which I like. Did you have another one?
No, I would just say obviously Big Ben. The usual suspects. My best play for the value would have to be Phillip Rivers. And then if you want to take a chance with a guy who's already proven himself since he's taken over, is probably going to continue to be the quarterback, even if Pussy Boy's thumb gets good in Chicago, is Hoyer is your cheap play.
Hoyer at the cheap play is why you're on this show, because that's an interesting perspective, and I really didn't even think about it this week, just because I thought about how much he stuck it to me last year with the goose egg. But it's a good play. Now, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of the upcoming plays this week that I really like, and again, I'm not trying to be a homer, but this is finally my opportunity to praise some Oakland Raiders. Derek Carr is the real deal.
He is the real deal.
He is the real deal. The kid can flat out play.
And there's a reason why I picked Phillip Rivers, is because I expect the same type of production out of Derek Carr.
Yeah, you might see a duel there. You really might, but I love Derek Carr against San Diego. San Diego's given up buku yards on the ground and in the air. Drew Brees had a field day with them again last week. Now, granted, Drew Brees does that to most teams. I think that Derek Carr is moving into a position that right now he is actually in the conversation to be the NFL MVP.
Okay.
I mean, it's big talk, but you're throwing 4 touchdowns. I mean, I
can buy that. I think,
Yeah, I mean, he's got 9 passing touchdowns. He's thrown 1 pick.
Oh, he's definitely there. That team is no longer a joke. I think I read an article today that maybe you posted on Facebook about them being the only real threat to the Broncos.
Yeah,
and
they
that's
may
a possibility.
Just be.
They need to just get their running game down and like you stated about how much San Diego is giving up on the ground. I wish we had an idea of who the guy was going to be because Latavius Murray is going to be out. Because I would love to start one of their running backs this week.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be afraid to start DeAndre Washington. As probably in a DraftKings play, I'll do DeAndre Washington. I'll do him as a flex if I can get him as cheap flex.
Okay.
And with that, I'm going to get some big dollar wide receivers, big dollar running back, because he's going to give you some room. But I love Derek Carr in the quarterback position this week. I tell you one guy that I want to stay the hell away from, and then I'll go into somebody else I like a lot, is I would stay the hell away from Eli Manning.
Yes.
He's done nothing but struggle. Odell Beckham Jr. is a nutcase. I should have known. And I didn't draft him anywhere just by accident. He just never fell to me in any first or early second round. He went in the first everywhere. But the kid's he's a problem. The sideline antics, the barking and biting and taking Josh Norman's bait last year, all those things. He's bigger than the team. I think he's got an ego problem. And then when your quarterback comes out and says, well, he brings it all on himself. I don't know if you heard Eli say that this week.
Well, I did.
Yeah, and Eli was exactly right. And look, if you're Eli Manning, this is your football team. Your head coach is in over his head, probably a pretty good play caller, but I don't know that he knows what he's doing.
Well, and the value that the team has, again, they're struggling, but still Victor Cruz is catching balls and so is Sterling Shepard. So that's taken away from the overall production that he was having in years past.
It is, and Victor Cruz is a professional, without question. Sterling Shepard looks pretty darn good. Victor Cruz is a pro player. He does his job. He does it well. And Eli is a champion.
Yeah.
Whether Eli's great or not, he wins games.
Right. So that right there, I don't like. He's a diva. And I honestly think he has something, you've heard rumors and maybe seen the YouTube videos, and not to get off the subject, but yeah. I think he has a secret that he needs to tell somebody, and I think maybe some of the NFL players might know it.
Yeah, there's a possibility that could be underlying.
Oh, man, I need to show you, because it's literally like that kid in high school that needs to get in the fights and the pitching contest with people because he's hiding something or he's got to prove something to himself. And that just, I don't know how someone who's a pro athlete still like that,
Well, he's definitely got an ego issue. Something's going on someplace where he's not totally focused. But that leads me to staying away from guys like Eli Manning. I'm concerned about any Denver offensive player this week. I know Paxton Lynch came in and looked pretty good against the Buccaneers, but that's the Buccaneer defense. That defense is like Swiss cheese. Not impressive at all. Bunch of bark and no bite. So who knows? Trevor Siemian is questionable this week. So it tells me to stay away from some other options that we'll get into momentarily when we talk about wide receivers. But a couple other quarterbacks I want to throw out, and this one might be a little bit off the wall because he is on the road coming off a bye, but I love Carson Wentz against Detroit.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick. I actually like Jordan Matthews at the wide receiver and Zach Ertz at tight end.
Yeah, Carson Wentz so far done everything right.
Right, the way that his output in production, I don't know if he's going to get you the numbers to win, but we'll see. This will be the game for him to do it.
It is, but these are the only 2 quarterbacks that I'm really interested in. Is Derek Carr. Carson Wentz is a nice inexpensive play, a little bit down the ladder, so you can make room. Not sure, $7,500 for Carson Wentz offhand, so that's nice value for a quarterback, especially if he could throw 3 touchdowns. That Detroit defense is not very good.
No, not at all.
On the road in the dome, no weather to worry about. Fast track.
I wonder if that game, based upon the strength of the Philly defense, though, might not be such a score fest. It
might not. That could be a 20-17 kind of game. It really could. But I can see Wentz finding his way over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns.